Part 16. All Heaven's Unlimited Base. Author, Jingde Ren. Chapter 151. Testimonials on Shelves. This chapter is not a VIP chapter. The unlimited base of the heavens will be released today. In fact, this book has gone through a lot of ups and downs before finally getting to where it is today. I believe there are some readers who came from the previous The Mechanic of Infinite Legend and know what the mechanic went through. In fact, the results of the mechanic were not bad when it was put on the shelves that year. 18,000 collections were put on the shelves, and the average subscription was 880 on the first day, about one subscription for every 20 people. However, this ratio has been increasing since then, until the last 130,000 collections, the average order is only about 1,500, which is equivalent to 100 to 1. This number is actually quite desperate, but I have been reflecting on it. When I was writing The Mechanic, I was a new one, and I touched a lot of minefields in the early stage. But even so, The Mechanic has touched the threshold of a boutique. In 2017, the plot happened to be Borderland. At that time, it was recommended on the homepage of the mobile terminal, and the results were very good. As a result, it was blocked on the day the recommendation just ended, and it was released after a month or two, and 3/4 of the subscriptions dropped directly. If it weren't for the encouragement of readers and friends, this book would not have been written at that time, but I persisted and wrote more than 5.7 million words. Then in 2019, the plot of Star Wars was widely praised by everyone, and the subscriptions continued to increase from around 1,200 to 1,500, and then it was blocked again. This time, it hasn't come out since July until now. Every time I talk about this matter, I always have the urge to cry deep in my heart. But to continue. Because I love writing books. When I was in elementary school, I went to a neighbor's elder brother's house to play, and saw him playing a game of flying in space, and I was fascinated by the grand picture at that time. Afterwards, I often found various reasons to go to his house, and as a result, this brother's parents started to bother me. I found out later that the game is called Galaxy Flying Generals, and readers who know this game probably have exposed their age. After that, I started to write a novel in my homework book called Out of the Galaxy. I wrote tens of thousands of words, but I couldn't write any more. But thinking about it later, a student who just entered junior high school can write an article of tens of thousands of words. I think I was pretty awesome at that time. So writing has become one of my hobbies. Although I haven't written a long novel, I have written many fragments or short stories. So I have always had such a dream in my heart, the dream of writing a book. In fact, for writing a book, the greatest sense of accomplishment lies in the process of presenting your own values to readers and then resonating with them. I enjoy this very much. Later, after reading many books, I realized, it turns out that writing books can also make money, so can I give it a try? When I think about it, I already have a family. But I started writing in my spare time, and this is The Mechanic of Infinite Legend. In fact, did The Mechanic make money? There must be. But compared to the workload of at least 6,000 words per day, the income of 3,500 a month is not high. It can only be said to be worthy of my fingers and head. But I really enjoy the process of writing a book, and I feel extremely satisfied with every comment from readers, whether it is good or bad. So I'm going to go ahead. After The Mechanic was blocked, I tried to transform and wrote an urban book, but I found that my style could not be accepted by urban readers, so I deleted it. Later, I wrote a Thulhu style book. Yes, it is still under my name, with 100,000 words, The Last God. In fact, I like that worldview very much, so although this book hit the street, I still can't bear to delete it. I only hope that when I have the ability to control this worldview in the future, I can express what this book wants to express. Of course, this is a later story. Next is this book, The Infinite Base of the Heavens. In fact, this book was not originally called this name, it was called Infinite Legend, Ruin God of War. However, due to the wrong rhythm in the early stage, many readers were unable to bring into the plot, so the previous article was changed a lot, and the name was also changed, and then it can come to the present. In fact, sometimes I feel that my writing style is still too rigid. For example, I really can't write the fast food essays that are more accepted now. Because whenever I move the pen, it is always heavier. Why is it heavy? I think maybe I think too much sometimes, too comprehensive. I think about a lot of things when I write a book, just like the Star Wars chapter of The Machinist before. The reason why so many people like it is because I put in more effort. How much information I have consulted and how many settings have been turned over is beyond everyone's imagination. And in order to bring myself into that environment, my whole life is almost filled with the BGM of Star Wars. It can be said that during those few months, I myself was a person living in the world of Star Wars. In fact, this kind of style, you can also experience it in the opening chapter of Resident Evil. I definitely didn't know a little about the world and then started writing as soon as I slapped my head. I must have a deep understanding of this worldview before I write. So I can't write about fast food because I know so much about these worlds that I don't want to scratch the surface. I prefer to convey what I got from it to everyone, so it is destined not to be soon. This runs counter to the fast travel style of solving a world in chapters 2 and 30, and it may be destined to be niche. Compromise. Still thought about it, actually tried it, but failed. Why did it fail? Because I am not myself anymore, I don't like what I write. Can readers like it? So in the end, I decided to return to my original path and write about what I like the most and what I am best at. I believe that what I write can be accepted and liked by people. Even if there are not many people, it will make me realize that what I write is valuable. Now the unlimited base of the heavens is about to hit the shelves, but I am actually extremely terrified in my heart. Real. Because the mechanic of Infinite Legend can go to Sanjiang and can be pushed on the homepage, but this book, which was rescued from the street, does not have such treatment. That's right, this book is just a grassroots and dig right now. So I was really scared, afraid that the grades of this book would completely collapse, and that the grades were so bad that I couldn't continue. Because if that's the case, maybe I will lose a lot of things. Maybe I'll compromise, maybe I'll change, but I don't want to. I firmly believe that my persistence is valuable, so I can only watch all this with the mentality of walking on eggshells. As the second hand moves forward bit by bit, the time to judge me is getting closer and closer. I hope it can continue. I don't want to ask for a first order, I just want to see the most authentic results. Give me an answer. All Heaven's Unlimited Base. Author, Jingde Ren. Chapter 152. 151 Start the Siege. Who is this person? A homeless person? Or a mercenary? Chen Yuyan looked at the person, thought for a while, and walked down to meet him. The person who came was a tall man with a tattered cloak and a lean combat uniform underneath. Behind him is also carrying an apparently modified sniper rifle. Seeing Chen Yuyan come out, he pulled back his cloak, revealing a middle-aged face, but it was a foreigner with gray hair and light blue eyes. Moreover, from his chin to his neck, he has undergone mechanized transformation. Judging from the sound of the electric motor when he was walking just now, it seems that his feet have also been transformed. Are you the new owner of this base? Get to know me. My name is Drago, and I'm a mercenary. The visitor's voice had a strong Russian accent, and there was a little electronic noise in his voice. He stretched out his hand to Chen Yuyan, his arm was also mechanical. Chen Yuyan shook hands with him, and asked, "Since you are a mercenary, what are you doing in this shitty place?" "Of course it's business. I also watched the battle where the Junkrat gang attacked here just now. Your army, is very interesting. I feel that you should be a big customer. Drago's eyes widened when he spoke. I kept looking at those Predators Alpha, and those 3 T-72 tanks. What business do you want to do with me? The business of murder. Drago's voice was very calm. Junkrat is not easy to mess with. I'll help you kill your enemies. I'll charge you by the day or by the head, how about it? Then what are you capable of? Chunyuan said with a smile. Drago said lightly, T-72 tank right headlight. As soon as the words fell, he picked up the sniper rifle from his back like lightning, and shot out without aiming. Boom. Snapped. With a crisp sound, the headlight on the right side of a T-72 tank parked in the base suddenly exploded, startling a black soldier next to him. The whole process takes less than 2 seconds. The maintenance fee is included in my salary, you're welcome. Drago put the gun on his back again. Calculated by the day, paid with refined tiberium ore. 2 kilograms a day, give me another car. I'll give you 4 kilograms a day, and you can also serve as my military advisor by the way. Make a deal. After reaching an agreement, Chunyuan waved his hand and asked Drago to come down with him. He introduced Drago to Wang Ji and Ho Xiangyang, and told them that he was now the military advisor of the Ruin Legion. After repelling the Junkrat gang's attack, Chunyuan also needs to start doing his own thing. In this Junkrat gang's attack, Chunyuan only lost 6 people, 3 of whom were members of the M2F light tank crew. Compared to the Junkrat gang who left behind dozens of corpses, it was a complete victory. Of course, superficial work is still to be done. He asked the soldiers to gather the corpses all over the ground and perform a simple ritual of salvation, so that all the corpses could be purified. Hui, Xiao. Death will wash away your sins and pollution, and you will go to a completely clean world, where there is a blue sky, you can breathe freely, and there is no overwhelming tiberium, Chunyuan chanted pretendingly. All the soldiers bowed their heads and muttered. Seeing their pious looks, Chunyuan knew clearly that it was not his fault, it was the former leader of Nod Kane, who brainwashed these people. What kind of charismatic person is this? And what kind of terrible person? Chunyuan couldn't help being a little curious about him. But now it seems that for these wretches, perhaps this piety is an entry point that they can use. Then Chunyuan made some arrangements. The 9 black tankers had nothing to do now. Anyway, the summoning time was 24 hours, and it was only an hour or 2 now. He asked these black tankers to try their best to teach the soldiers here how to drive the T-72 main battle tank. Anyway, the tank is idle in front of them, so it should be okay to go directly to the practical course. Ho Xiangyang will also continue to stay at the Black Wolf base, organize the defense, and tidy up the base. After Chunyuan's attack and the Junkrat gang's 2 attacks, now the gate of the Black Wolf base is almost in ruins. However, there is not enough manpower now, so we can only shovel out the open space first, so as not to block the entry and exit of vehicles. And the work of killing the Junkrat gang will begin immediately. These lunatics must not let them stay by their side. If one day they suddenly figured it out and went to Xingfu village, then there would really be a big problem. Chunyuan called Drago over, and then pointed to the hunter Alpha, Liquor, and Hellhound and said to him, I will let these biological weapons start cleaning up the ruins in the south of the city immediately, and kill anyone inside who is still alive. A person who can move. Then more than a dozen horror robots crawled over. Chunyuan pointed to them and said, these are horror robots. They will kill Junkrat's motorcycles and jeeps, and they will have no chance to escape. Drago nodded and said, understood, I will act together with these monsters, hide in their shadows, kill each of their captains, and ensure that the Junkrat gang cannot organize effective resistance. Chunyuan smiled with satisfaction, very well, more of these B.O.Ws will continue to join the siege in the future. Within a week, I don't want any traces of Junkrat to exist in the ruined city. Finish this task, I will give you a good car. You will get this result. Get your car ready. Drago said without saying a word, turned and walked towards the depths of the ruins. Those B.O.Ws also started to act immediately, and the Cerberus immediately dispersed and ran in all directions. The licker also immediately crawled with its sharp claws among the broken walls and ruins of the building ruins. Whether it was the walls or the ceiling, it was like walking on the ground for them. The Predator Alpha is like a tank, they move forward very steadily, and the speed is not fast. Just like the source of their genes lizards, they usually walk slowly, but when they find an enemy, they will burst out with unimaginable strength and speed. Watching this biochemical army disappear into the ruins, a sneer appeared on the corner of Chinhuyan's mouth. The south of the city, where the Junkrat gang has always been entrenched, had a war, probably before the Black Wolf tribe entered here. Many buildings were destroyed, roads were completely cut off, and almost nowhere was level. On such a complex terrain, coupled with Junkrat's unique giant-wheeled motorcycles that can advance on the ruins, it is not without reason that they were able to move around the south of the city for so long, but the surrounding forces were helpless. Sending infantry is probably not an opponent, and armored troops can't drive in, and even if you take down the ruins, so what? That's why Iron Hammer Town can only tolerate the existence of the Junkrat gang, and the weak Black Wolf tribe can only pay them regular tribute to ensure that they are not attacked. But for B.O.W, none of this is a problem. Whether it is Hunter Alpha, Cerberus, or Licker, they can move freely among the ruins in the south of the city. And most importantly, ordinary weapons have no effect on them at all. So this time, the Junkrat gang is destined to meet the god of death who will send them to hell. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. All Heaven's Unlimited Base. Author, Jingde Ren. Chapter 153. 152 Basic System. Ruin City, Northwest Side, Happy Village. In the best house in Xingfu Village, Chinhuyan sat on an old chair, looking indifferently at the few people sitting around the round table with one leg missing. His henchman Wang Ji, Gen Yu, the head of Xingfu Village, and an ant in his 40s and 50s and an old man in his 60s. The ant's name is Zhang Qing, the head of Muhe Village, and the old man's name is Cao Zheng, the head of Beiti Village. Behind them are two villagers from their own village. As Wang Jinsong said before, his territory is still a mess, and he can't integrate the forces of these places at all. That's why today's meeting happened. He had to establish a system. Only with enough power can they gain the upper hand in the subsequent battles, whether it is Iron Hammer Town, Junkrat Gang, or even the Forsaken Warlord behind them, Iron Cage. Are you Chinhuyan? You are really good at killing Chi Wei. I wonder what we can do for you. Cao Zheng said. I do need you to provide me with a lot of things, but what I want to discuss most now is what I can provide for you. Chinhuyan said in a deep voice. No one is a saint. You should explain it directly. They are all experienced people. These superficial efforts are useless. Tell me, how much food, how many people, how many women do we need? Zhang Qing mocked self-righteously. She is out of shape, a little fat, with many wrinkles on her face, and her face is full of meanness. Chinhuyan glanced at her, without any change in expression, but continued, the Black Wolf tribe no longer exists, and I will establish a new force, the Legion of Ruins. Oh, good name. Zhang Qing flattered her, but the subtext is that you have different names compared to the Black Wolf tribe. Chinhuyan pretended not to understand, and said, actually, the most important things that can be exported from Xingfu Village, Muhe Village, and Beiti Village are food and people. That's right. But you can only give these things. If you really think that I only want these, then I can only say, wrong. Because what you can give is far from enough. The faces of Zhangqing and Cao Zheng turned livid. Zhangqing moved her buttocks and wanted to leave on the spot, but she glanced at the AMX-10P infantry fighting vehicle parked at the door, swallowed again, and sat back. I need elite soldiers, skilled workers, experienced managers, and smart technicians. You don't have any of these things, Chunyuan said. Then you should go to Torch City. There are tens of thousands of people there. If you pay a high price, maybe you can get what you want. Cao Zheng also had a hint of sarcasm in his mouth. Chunyuan didn't think it was embarrassing either, and said with a faint smile, there is no way, Torch City is too far away from us, and people don't like our mud legs, right? So, I can only let you give it. Zhangqing glanced at her thin lips, and said eccentrically, then you go to our village to choose people. Whoever you choose, just take them away. Chunyuan still pretended not to hear. First of all, the elite soldiers. Now the villagers in the 3 villages can't even achieve the most basic physical strength, let alone be a soldier. So, I think you need meat. Now Zhangqing and Cao Zheng didn't move, they kept staring at Chunyuan. Genyu has been sitting on the mountain from the beginning to the end. He already has some basic understanding of Chunyuan's means and power, so he knows that everything Chunyuan said can be done. I will still collect food from you, but from now on, it will be paid. I have a lot of things here, whether it is daily necessities or meat. But these things need to be exchanged for food. Specifically, I will tell you the exchange ratio. Chunyuan said. Zhangqing and Cao Zheng looked at each other and nodded to each other, then Cao Zheng turned around and asked, you really have meat there? Could it be the polluted meat? Chunyuan hooked his fingers, and Wang Ji immediately took out a cloth bag, from which he took out 3 large pieces of frozen beef and placed them on the table. The weight of the beef almost overwhelmed the lame table, but Genyu reacted quickly and supported the table. This is for you. 1 piece per person. Watch it. It's all top quality beef. No pollution. Wang Ji said triumphantly. Chunyuan brought back a truck full of frozen beef from the world of Resident Evil before, and now that refrigerated truck has been parked at the gate of the Nuwa base, and the base is constantly powered to keep it frozen. There are almost 5 tons of beef, which is completely enough to supply 3 villages and thousands of people in a short period of time. Although Wang Jinsong did not come, he still communicated with him the preliminary plan. The most important point is, since you have no money, create a kind of money. As long as there are things that can be circulated, then there is a real foundation for the formation of a social ecology. But now, the most suitable thing for circulation is food. Because the villages in the ruined city don't have any industrial capabilities, tiberium mines are useless to them at all. And because tiberium pollution is everywhere here, pure food is also a very precious resource. The basis for the existence of these 3 villages is that they all have their own conditions to grow pollution-free food. As for Chi Wei's Black Wolf tribe, the 2 aspects that were able to survive at the beginning were the first to exploit these villages to obtain food, and the second was to transport the refined tiberium to Iron Hammer Town or Torch City to obtain more industrial products. Then, how is the exchange of grain and meat carried out? Through what channels? Cao Zheng asked. Here we come. What they care about is not how to exchange, but the role they play in this link. Chunyuan didn't point it out, and continued to answer, it will be done directly through the village chief, and then how it will be distributed in the village, I don't want to care about that. Sure enough, both Zhangqing and Cao Zheng had expressions of satisfaction on their faces. Chunyuan went on to say, similarly, I will continue to provide you with electricity just like before the Black Wolf tribe. But now, these electricity are charged and paid with food. Zhangqing's face changed, and he quickly said, but the Black Wolf tribe used to provide us with electricity for free. Then how about I follow Chi Wei's expropriation method and take most of your food away? Chunyuan smiled faintly. Seeing that the two village chiefs stopped talking again, he laughed and said, "Actually, you will see that even if electricity is charged, even if you need to exchange food for meat, in the end you will still have much more food at your disposal than before." "Okay, we understand this matter. Is there anything else?" Cao Zheng asked. "Of course there is." Chen Yuyan leaned back on the backrest, the chair creaked, and he had to sit up straight again without any trace. "Now this place is not peaceful, and now I am at war with Junkrat gang. So some the fish that slipped through the net escaped, and I need to establish self-police groups in every village." "Self-police regiment?" Gen Yu narrowed his eyes, and he knew that the next step was the focus. "Yes, from the police corps. Now I have received a group of soldiers from the former Black Wolf tribe, and now I will rearrange it. Each village will have 5 soldiers, and then each of your villages will choose 5 people to join. In addition, each the village is equipped with an armored vehicle and 5 guard robots to maintain law and order." Chen Yuyan nodded to Wang Ji as he spoke. Wang Ji stood up immediately, walked over, and opened the door. There was only the whining of the motor, and the clanging of iron blocks on the ground. A robot about the height of a person, with a round body, a head and body integrated, and clumsy limbs walked in. "Hello, please show your ID." "Hello, please show your ID," the robot said in a rigid electronic voice. Zhang Qing's face turned livid again. She stood up abruptly and said loudly, "This is absolutely impossible. You are trying to completely control us. Thank you for the reward of 10,000 starting coins from Star Sea Rangers. Thanks to book friend 2019011908161033 for the reward of 400 starting coins. Thanks to Science Tuition, Memories of Fantasy City, Grandpa Penkai and the 100 starting coins that I shot the sun to reward. Xiaojing usually doesn't save manuscripts, but in the next 3 days, I will push back everything. The child has also been sent to Grandma's house, so I can concentrate on typing at home. Write as much as you want. At least 5 changes every day. All Heavens Unlimited Base. Author, Jingde Ren. Chapter 154. 153, Start Again. Chen Yuyan nodded with a smile and said, "It's still Village Chief Zhang who sees it clearly." "That's right, I just want to control the 3 villages and integrate them into a whole. From today onwards, you are doing things for me. Likewise, I'll pay you extra." Both Zhang Qing and Cao Zheng looked unhappy, because in the past, even under Qi Wei's oppression, they still had a lot of power. At least the whole village had to listen to them. And if it continues, the position of the village head will probably be hereditary, and their descendants are ready to take over. Those numb villagers did not resist them, but chose to accept them. But now I can think with my toes that the self-police regiment is just a cover, and Chen Yuyan is garrisoning troops directly in their village. In this way, the village chief no longer has the final say in the village. As Chen Yuyan said, they are just managers who work for him. The most unacceptable thing is that there are robots joining in. You know, people can be bought and assimilated, but robots can't. Not only that, I will provide more things for your village in the future. I will build infrastructure, clean up roads, open clinics, build new apartment buildings, all of which will come true. And what I can provide will more and richer, and will even include many daily necessities." Chen Yuyan continued. Then he looked at Zhang Qing and Cao Zheng, who had livid faces, and continued, "Of course, I can also understand. After all, you are all peasants farming. Although it is very tempting to have a lot of things, the food in your family may not be enough. Not much. But it doesn't matter, to build so many things, you need manpower. And the regular army of the Ruin Legion also needs manpower, so I will also hire villagers to work for me, and I will pay them." Cao Zhengan said with a smile, "But, our village is full of rough people, maybe they can't do such fine work." "It doesn't matter, as long as you have the most basic qualities. For example, the doctors in the clinic, I don't think those people in the village who are skilled in medicine are willing to work in the humble environment of their own homes. I will establish a professional clinic. This will give them more room to develop their strengths. What a great thing. Chen Yuyan was blocked directly. As long as there are more villagers who have entered into an employment relationship with Chen Yuyan, the stronger his control over these places will be, and the stronger his sense of belonging to the Ruins Legion will be. Of course, soon, in the eyes of these people, there was only Chen Yuyan, and there was no village chief anymore. Jiang Qing and Cao Zhen naturally wanted to understand this. That robot, yes, is the robot too rigid? If it hurts others, it's not good, Jiang Qing managed to squeeze out a sentence. Although it is very rigid, this kind of robot actually has a lot of intelligence. If you don't believe me, we can try it. Chen Yuyan smiled, pointed to Jiang Qing and said, now I will revoke your residency rights. Almost at the same time, the protector-type guard robot who had been standing still suddenly turned around and walked towards Jiang Qing unsteadily. Hello, please show your ID. Hello, please show your ID. Jiang Qing was so frightened that her face turned pale. She stood up and backed away again and again, even the chair was knocked down. She glanced at the robot, then at Chen Yuyan, and stammered, this. What ID? Let it stop. Don't come over. You are not a local resident, please give up all resistance immediately and follow me back to the police station to register. The guard robot has come to Jiang Qing, stretched out the mechanical arm with only 3 fingers, and grabbed Jiang Qing's hand. Although the robot's movements are not big, Jiang Qing was caught by the cold and hard steel, and Jiang Qing was also caught in unbearable pain. She shouted, help! Help! Let me go! Let me go! She desperately wanted to struggling, but the mechanical arm did not move at all. Human strength is far inferior to that of robots. Please give up all resistance immediately and follow me back to the police station to register. Please give up all resistance immediately and follow me back to the police station to register. The guard robot kept saying. Then Chen Yuyan pointed to Jiang Qing again and said, now I will grant you the right of residence again. The guard robot immediately let go of his hand and stepped back, and the rigid electronic voice sounded, hello madam, I wish you a happy life. It was both a demonstration and a demonstration. Now Jiang Qing and Cao Zhen also fully understood that Chen Yuyan was such a person who couldn't reason with him. He didn't want to reason with himself at all he wanted was to obey. Otherwise, their life and death are just a matter of Chen Yuyan's words. Gan Yu immediately stood up and said, our Xingfu village will accept this arrangement, and I will arrange it right away. He is a smart person, so he naturally understands this. An hour later, Muhi village and Beiti village drove an AMX Visai infantry fighting vehicle and a pickup truck respectively. The pickup truck was loaded with 5 protector-type guard robots and a batch of frozen beef. On the side of Xingfu village, there is an AMX-10P infantry fighting vehicle stationed there. In the past, the soldiers of the Black Wolf tribe also came from these 3 villages, but when Chen Yuyan selected the people from the village's self-police regiment, he deliberately staggered the people and prevented the local soldiers from entering the village where they were born. The next thing is for the village chiefs to announce Chen Yuyan's new measures to the villagers. And Chen Yuyan also went to the 3 villages to build a primary clinic and a 2-story apartment building in the villages with the vacated production lines of the affiliated manufacturing station as the residence of the self-police regiment. And Chen Yuyan also started planning to return to the world of Resident Evil. To establish a preliminary social ecology, he needs to bring more things. And more importantly, during this period of time, he has received several system prompts. The experimenter Calvin Martins paid 2,000 points to enter the world of Resident Evil for 4 days. Time begins to flow in the world of Resident Evil, and it is 4 days long. The experimenter Tomoko Kora paid 3,500 points to enter the world of Resident Evil for 7 days. Time begins to flow in the world of Resident Evil, and the time is 7 days. Warning, the tracker has mutated, and the existing NE-alpha parasites can no longer be completely controlled. Experimenters, please deal with it as soon as possible. The second and third experimenters bound to the world of Resident Evil appeared, Calvin Martins, Tomoko Takara, and the tracker has also mutated. Before Chunyuyan came to Xingfu village for a meeting, he went to the Black Wolf base to check on the tracker, who had been lying on his stomach for the past few days, and found that some tiny tiberium crystals had grown from it. Reminiscent of what Ho Xiangyang said, that some animals would mutate under the erosion of tiberium and become tiberium demons, Chunyuyan understood that this matter must be dealt with as soon as possible. Once the tracker also mutates into a tiberium demon and escapes the control of the NE-alpha parasite, then it may be a disaster for the Black Wolf base. Now in the database of Infinity Base, in Umbrella's technology tree, one of the level 2 technologies unlocked after developing advanced T-virus research technology is Nemesis research, which is the basis of all NE-series parasites. But under the research of Nemesis, there is only NE-alpha, a subordinate technology. Then if you want to get more advanced parasites, you have to make a trip. And this time, with the upgrade of the Infinite Base and the expansion of his strength, he can do more things. System: I will pay 1,500 points to enter the world of Resident Evil for 3 days. There are many things to be done, and Chunyuyan decided to divide them into several times. Request received. Experimenter Chunyuyan paid 1,500 points to enter the world of Resident Evil for 3 days. This message is broadcast to all experimenters bound to the world. Thanks to Samwick for the reward of 10,000 starting coins. Thank you for the 2,000 starting point coins rewarded by Yimenkingshan. Thanks to Teesfans, Under the White Moon, and Tiandajose for tipping us with 1,000 starting coins. Thanks to F2 Plusa for the reward of 500 starting coins. Thank you for recalling the 200 starting point coins rewarded by Huan Cheng. All Heavens Unlimited Base. Author, Jingde Ren. Chapter 155. 154 Construction across the world. A white light flashed, and Chunyuyan appeared in a farm. This place is located in Texas, USA. The original farm owner has gone bankrupt. When he came back last time, Chunyuyan bought it at a very cheap price. Not only does it occupy a vast area, but it is also located in a remote location and basically no one cares about it. Most importantly, he may need to carry out a series of agricultural planting and research here. The members of the Wolf Pack team are not here, and they should all be busy with their own affairs. Because he arrived more than a day later than the 2 previous experimenters, the time in this world should have flowed by more than a day. He called Four Eyes and Rupier, found an open space, and gave the system an order: System, build a warehouse with an area of 100 x 50 meters. The request is received, 400 points will be deducted, and the resources consumed will also be deducted, and the warehouse will be completed in 2 hours. The hyperspace teleportation function unlocked by the level 3 base is really powerful. Various items can now be built in every world he is in. This is a huge improvement. Chunyuyan was very grateful for his decision to upgrade to a level 3 manufacturing center as soon American Samoa possible without researching some technologies. It's just, well, points again. Chunyuyan sighed. He realized that his points were really short. After completing missions in the Resident Evil world, he earned a total of 48,377 points. Spend 11,000 points to purchase and upgrade the personal space, and 8,000 points to bring the tracker back to his own world. Then 500 points brought out 100 grams of T-virus, and 5,000 points were used to strengthen the secondary muscle explosive power. Next, I went back to the world of Resident Evil for 7 days at 3,500 points. It was 200 points to bring back a car of beef with a truck. Then I paid another 1,500 points this time, and used 400 points to repair this stupid warehouse. I spent 6 days in the world of Command and Conquer, and deducted 60 points. It took 450 points to summon 9 black tank soldiers. Now he only has 17,767 points left. Pitfather, ah. Too bad. Not enough points. But until the next time travel, you need to complete the second task and increase the population you control to 5,000. In this process, he will inevitably have conflicts with Hammer Town. What if he has no strength? After the warehouse was built, Chenyuyan spent another 1,500 points to build a primary chemical research institute and a primary T-virus research institute underground in the warehouse. It took 18 hours to complete in camouflage mode. After a while, a jeep appeared in the distance. Four Eyes and Looper drove over, and Hank was with them. "Why are you different this time from last time? Didn't you flash back to your world for a few days last time? This time you disappeared for more than 3 days." Xian jumped out of the car and asked Road. On her fair and delicate face, the expression was still cold, as if she had never had much emotion. Of course, Chenyuyan knew that at a certain time, her emotions were very intense, but after the end, she had a poker face again. This made him very helpless. "It's just, more than 3 days?" Chenyuyan asked in his mind, "The system, shouldn't it only last about 1 day? Why is it more than 3 days?" After using the summoning function, the time flow of the corresponding world will still be restored, and the time is 24 hours during this time. Besides you, there was another person who used the summoning function, so a total of 2 days flowed, including the time difference between you and the experimenter who entered this world before, so up to now a total of 3 days and 7 hours have flowed. It turns out that the summoning function also makes time flow. Chenyuyan frowned, and the summoning function didn't seem to broadcast to other experimenters, which would cause some uncontrollable factors. However, he felt a little relieved when he thought that the summoning function had a 7-day cooldown. And in other words, even if time starts to flow, there is probably almost no existence in this world that can pose a threat to the Wolf Pack team. At least Chenyuyan can be sure that among the other 4 experimenters bound to this world, there is no strong person from the Silver Group. Among the 200 experimenters who came to this world in the last mission, there are a total of 4 Silver Group experts. Among them, Huang Xian and Holger Baker are both dead, and sisters Ling Xiao and Ling Yu don't seem to be interested in this world. After all, they practice Hongshan School of Swordsmanship, so why go to Resident Evil when they have nothing to do? Chopping zombies for fun? At this time, Xian and the others were already attracted by the sudden extra warehouse. Looper walked over to look at the brand new warehouse, frowned and said, "It didn't exist here 3 days ago." As she spoke, she pushed open the warehouse door, and immediately saw a blue light curtain covering the entire floor of the warehouse. "This is the research institute under construction in camouflage mode," she couldn't help but exclaimed, "What is this?" "The biochemical research institute I built for you will take half a day to complete," Chenyuyan said. "Wait a minute, you mean, this warehouse was built in the same way? It's been a long time. How long did it take you to build this warehouse?" Looper asked. 2 hours. Chenyuyan said with a smile. "Is this the power you rely on?" Hank pondered, "Every time you give me more surprises, I start to look forward to what the world you live in will be like. Build a warehouse in 2 hours, and build a research institute in half a day. If this is the case, given you a year, wouldn't you be able to build a country?" Looper's breathing began to become heavy. In front of the miracle technology, she was only excited besides excited. Chenyuyan shook his head regretfully and said, "No way. It takes a very precious resource to make things across time and space, and this resource is only available to me, so it is very difficult." Rupier made a rare joke, "It's okay, otherwise, I will definitely think you are an alien who invaded the Earth. Let's get back to business. Why did you ask us to come here? It won't be just to let us visit your repair shop. House. There is indeed something. First, 2 more people have been added to the hunting target, one is Calvin Martins and the other is Gao Liang's Heise. Together with Zhang Zhenbo I told you last time, 3 people have been confirmed. The name, and the last person has not been moved yet. In short, as long as I find all 4 of them, control or kill them, then I can go back and forth between the 2 worlds better. Build up our own power. Perhaps, the scale of the future is no smaller than that of Umbrella Corporation. Chen Yuyan said seriously. What else? Hank asked bluntly. Then it's about the 4 eyes. Chen Yuyan realized that the 4 eyes hadn't spoken. He turned around and saw this petite girl staring at the blue light curtain in a daze. Chen Yuyan walked over, stretched out his hand and shook it in front of her eyes, only then did his 4 eyes react suddenly. His expression became extremely rich at that moment, but then he returned to his poker face. She turned her head and asked, how did this happen? Is it related to your blood? Are you from Earth? Thinking of her expression just now, Chen Yuyan laughed dumbly and said, I'm a true Earthling, but I've awakened some different abilities. In fact, the Ling Xiao and Ling Yu you saw last time also have similar abilities. Special ability. I understand this, but it's far less shocking than your ability. The 4 eyes fixed on Chen Yuyan as if looking at a rare treasure. Okay, because it's hard for me to explain this matter. Maybe it will be easier to talk about it if you get rid of the other 4 people. Chen Yuyan scratched his head and said. The 4 of them can also travel through different worlds. Such people are indeed dangerous. I will follow this matter. Hank nodded. Chen Yuyan nodded and said, but this time I have another main purpose, which is to find you. Looking for me? She stared blankly, and then her face flushed slightly, which was not obvious. I remember seeing it at Umbrella's European headquarters before. After the Ne alpha parasite, there is a more advanced Ne beta parasite, right? I need to get this thing. Chen Yuyan said. Ne beta parasite? The 4-eyed corners of the mouth twitched imperceptibly, and the tone became cold again. This is the latest product developed by Umbrella's European headquarters, but when we destroyed the European headquarters, Kristen Henry hid the relevant data and couldn't find it. This is to make it clear that I don't want to help. Thank you for the 1,000 starting coins rewarded by Her Majesty the Queen for whipping me. Thanks to Sukoran and everyone who has no regrets for rewarding 500 starting coins. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. All Heavens Unlimited Base. Author, Jingde Ren. Chapter 156. 155 Murphys. The reaction of the 4 eyes was noticed by Chen Yuyan, but he didn't think she was throwing a little girl's temper. In fact, the person with 4 eyes is very indifferent, and she treats everyone, including herself, with an extremely indifferent attitude. Sometimes she even runs experiments on herself without even noticing. What she needs is to be valued. This is Chen Yuyan's judgment on her. So he added in time, the underground research institute built here is for you, and I will expand it even more in the future. Sure enough, the expression in her 4 eyes loosened a little. She glanced at Chen Yuyan, then stared at the blue light curtain inside the warehouse and said, for me? Yes. After we came out of Umbrella Company, we gradually lost all the equipment we had before, so I think we also need a base of operations. Let's start here. Chen Yuyan said. Only then did 4 eyes say, it is impossible for Christine Henry to delete the data of Ne beta, because this thing means an extremely huge sum of money. He must have given the data to others, and maybe there are samples. So, just find the people who have been in contact with him recently and start investigating. Don't look for it, This person is Murphy's D. Duval, who used to be the director of Umbrella's Atlantic Research Institute. After the virus leak occurred in the Acre Mountains, the company conducted an internal investigation and found several scapegoats, and Murphy's is one of them. He has a good relationship with Christine Henry. 2 days ago, I sneaked into the Paris Research Institute that was destroyed by us to search again, and saw his information in the authorization record of the computer. In other words, although he was fired from the company, someone still reactivated his authority. In Paris, only Christian Henry can do this, said Hank. Then where is he now? Chen Yuyan asked. In a villa on the outskirts of St. John's on the east coast of Canada. There he found a group of mercenaries, about 100 people. He should have a private research facility there, Hanka said. Chen Yuyan smiled slightly and said, then what are you waiting for? Put on your equipment and let's go. What equipment? Hank asked. Chen Yuyan opened a box at the door of the warehouse, took out 2 sets of combat uniforms from it, and handed them to Four Eyes and Hank respectively, and he said, this is the same combat uniform as Rupier's, and it can be used for a short time after charging. Provides bulletproof effect. Looper was obviously stunned. This combat uniform is only an experimental product in Umbrella. How did you make it? Of course it's the power I have. It's a pity that I don't have the ability to manufacture Victor's invisible combat uniform now, otherwise, wouldn't it be beautiful to have one for each person? Chen Yuyan felt a little regretful that the invisible combat uniform required level 4 to manufacture. It can only be made in the center, and this thing is quite advanced. In fact, Chen Yuyan's greatest convenience compared to other experimenters is that although other experimenters have to pay points to bring things back from other worlds, Chen Yuyan only needs to scan them into technology, and then return to his own world to let the infinite base just make it. Even better, the Laplace multidimensional calculus system does not actually restrict experimenters from bringing things out of their respective worlds as long as your personal space can fit it. In this way, to a large extent, Chen Yuyan exchanged items between different worlds for free. But Rupier's bulletproof combat uniform is also enough. After charging for a period of time, an electromagnetic barrier can be generated on the surface of the combat uniform within tens of seconds, and the kinetic energy of small caliber bullets can be directly offset by repulsion. With the assistance of this piece of equipment, plus the strength of the Wolf Pack squad, each of whom can be called the king of soldiers, it is like a tiger with wings added. Da-da-da-da. Da-da-da-da. On the east coast of Canada, gunshots broke out in a luxury villa on the outskirts of St. John's, piercing the tranquility of the night. Chen Yuyan rushed in directly from the south side of the villa. The mercenaries who were on guard saw someone coming, and it was obvious that the person was not friendly, so they didn't say much, and immediately fired a series of bullets. Chen Yuyan immediately activated the bulletproof function of the combat uniform, and an electric current passed across the surface of the combat uniform. Then he kicked his feet suddenly, and rushed forward more than 10 meters in an instant like an arrow from the string, and came to a mercenary in the blink of an eye. In the midst of his terrified expression, Chen Yuyan kicked the opponent's waist fiercely, and there was a click. This mercenary, who was at least 1.8 meters tall, was kicked in half and flew several meters away. At the same time, Chen Yuyan pointed the MP-5 submachine gun in his hand and fired a burst of fire, knocking down 2 more mercenaries. The opponent's dense bullets hit him, and he only felt a little pain. He rushed forward like a god of death, invulnerable and powerful. It's okay to be killed by the gun in his hand, but if he gets close to him, it's impossible to have a whole body with a punch. Beep beep beep, an alarm sounded from inside the combat uniform, indicating that the bulletproof effect was about to expire. Chen Yuyan jumped up high, grabbed the railing on the second floor of the villa, which was more than 3 meters above the ground, and jumped up just in time to see a mercenary shivering in a corner. He stepped on the mercenary's face, and with a crisp sound, all the bones in the man's face were crushed. Then Chen Yuyan took out the communicator and said, I have entered the south side of the villa. Killed. Looking back at the south gate of the villa, which was already in a mess, he counted the corpses on the ground, 33 people. I also entered the north main entrance of the villa, and there are no survivors. Hank said lightly. The tarmac has been controlled, there are no survivors. The voice of Four Eyes came. The underground parking lot has been controlled, and AB.O.W has appeared here. Looper said in the communication. Hearing her words, Chen Yuyan frowned, is there AB.O.W? But he didn't pay much attention. After controlling all the exits of the villa, he directly kicked open the window from the second floor of the villa and walked in. The interior decoration of this villa is very luxurious, stepping into it is like entering the palace of the European royal family. This made Chen Yuyan couldn't help feeling that the umbrella company was rich, and the lives of those high-level people were really like the royal family. Unless it's someone like William Birkin who doesn't care about anything but research all day long. Going up the stairs covered with precious carpets to the third floor, Chen Yuyan came to the door of the largest room. He didn't hide his footsteps. He just walked up, only to hear a click, and the door was opened. Almost at the same time, da-da-da-da. A burst of bullets hit. But at this time Chen Yuyan had turned on the bulletproof function of the combat uniform again, only to see a flash of lightning, and all the bullets hit him and fell to the ground feebly. Without further ado, Chen Yuyan picked up the MP-5 with one hand and fired a burst of fire. A mercenary in the room was immediately shot into a sieve and fell to the ground. He looked at the other mercenary in the room, but didn't say anything. The mercenary immediately dropped his gun and raised his hands high. Get out! Chen Yuyan said flatly. This mercenary was also a bachelor, and he ran away without hesitation, without messing around at all. However, just as he ran out of the door, a cold light flashed, and a large amount of blood gushed out from his throat. Hank put away his dagger, kicked away the struggling mercenary, and walked in. U.S.S. The most powerful lackeys of the company, are you finally refusing to let me go? A feminine male voice came. Chen Yuyan looked at the person sitting across the wide table, are you Murphy's? Morpheus stood up, only to see that his face was soft, his skin was abnormally fair, and he had long silver hair, neatly combed and tied behind his head. At first glance, he almost took him for a woman. Since you are going to kill me, don't you even recognize the target's name and photo? Come on, kill me. It's just a pity that I couldn't see the last tragedy of the company. Murphy's raised his hands, said slowly. Thanks to the book friend 201802041021387888 for the reward of 100 starting coins. All Heavens Unlimited Base. Author, Jingde Ren. Chapter 157. 156 Another World. Chen Yuyan put away the gun, walked over and sat opposite Murphy's, raised his legs and said, the data and samples of the Ne-beta parasite are all with you, right? I don't know what you're talking about. Murphy said coldly, besides, to be so rude in front of a gentleman, are you a barbarian? I thought how elegant and powerful the U.S.S, the company's trump card, would be. The existence of them, now it seems, is just a group of hooligans. Since the data and samples are with you, it's easy to talk about. Let's make a deal. Chen Yuyan said with a smile. I said, the things are not with me. Murphy's eyes darkened. You give me the things, and I will complete the next work, making the Ne-beta parasite. Then, I will help you. Before Chen Yuyan finished speaking, Murphy slapped the table angrily and stood up, shouting loudly, I said it. It's not with me. Then he suddenly came to his senses, rubbed his forehead and sighed, I'm sorry, I lost my temper. Murphy sat down again, looked at Chen Yuyan and said, if you want to kill me, do it. Or There was a sneer at the corner of his mouth. It seems that I am still useful in your eyes, so if that's the case, I will do it first. He pressed a button on the table as he spoke. All I saw was that the walls on both sides of the room suddenly opened, revealing 2 hidden doors, and then, 2 Hunter Alpha came out from inside. He, kill them. Murphy's laughed triumphantly. Seeing that Hank was about to make a move, Chen Yuyan said flatly, I'll do it. As soon as the words fell, he stood up like lightning, kicked the solid wooden chair out of the way, and exploded on the face of the hunter on the right with a click. At the same time, Chen Yuyan slid to the left like a ghost, and punched the hunter hard in the jaw. The hunter, who weighed nearly half a ton, was thrown back by him, and green blood spewed out of his mouth. But Chen Yuyan's attack was not over yet. He kicked the hunter in the stomach again, and punched it in the chest again. Bang bang. The huge hunter was knocked to the ground by him. Chen Yuyan stepped forward and took out the shotgun he was carrying on his back, thrust it into the hunter's mouth and pulled the trigger. Boom. Just as the gunshot rang out, another hunter had already arrived behind Chen Yuyan, and suddenly grabbed it with long sharp claws. However, in the next second, Chen Yuyan's figure disappeared in place. Immediately afterwards, the hunter's knee was kicked in the joint by him, and the hunter staggered suddenly. Before it could stand still, Chen Yuyan shot it in the head. Boom. The hunter was knocked to the ground by a shot at close range, and then Chen Yuyan directly stuffed the muzzle of the gun into its big mouth. Boom. Green blood sprayed out in a radial pattern on the ground. In less than 10 seconds, the 2 Hunter Alphas were killed. Chen Yuyan didn't change his face, he didn't breathe, he went over and took a new chair and threw it in front of Murphy's, went over and sat down, and continued to raise Erlang's legs. Now Murphy stopped talking, his face was livid, and he sat there not daring to move. Chen Yuyan saw that it was almost done, and then said, actually, the U.S.S no longer exists. We have already separated from Umbrella Corporation. In fact, the research institute in Paris was destroyed by us. Then you killed Christine Henry. Murphy's became angry. We want to destroy the entire Umbrella company, so this is a necessary step. As for Christine Henry, I can only say sorry, because I didn't know you before. Chen Yuyan said, spreading his hands. Then if that's the case, what do you need the Ne beta parasite for? Murphy's eyes seemed to burst into flames. Control the B.O.W. Chen Yuyan replied bluntly. Murphy's eyes lit up, but he quickly covered it up again. He pretended to be calm, there must be a limit to lying. After the production line on Sina Island was destroyed last month, Umbrella Company no longer has the capacity to production line for BOW. Umbrella doesn't have one, but I do. I can mass produce Predator Alpha, Cerberus, and Liquor. More production lines will be established in the future, Chen Yuyan said. Then according to what you said, you should have a fairly large base. So, where is it? Murphy's began to wear a mocking smile on his face. In another world. Chen Yuyan replied. Ha 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 ha. Murphy's laughed, as if he had heard the funniest joke in the world, another world. Ha 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 ha. Great. Another world. Ha 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 ha. His laughter stopped suddenly. Then why don't you go to another world to get parasite samples? If I have one, I will definitely give it to you in another world. No problem. Chen Yuyan replied seriously, with the Raccoon City incident, B.O.W. has become a thorn in the eyes of several big countries in this world. It is impossible for a B.O.W. like Umbrella Company, which is just starting up, to really fight against it. The United States is a big country with powerful firepower projection capabilities. Therefore, the stage of B.O.W. can only be in another world. Do you think I'm a fool? Murphy's looked at Chen Yuyan with pity, or are you already stupid? You'll know if you go and have a look. Chunyuan looked at him playfully and said. In fact, when they were on the road, Hank and the others had already introduced Murphy's. As U.S.S is a resident force in Umbrella's European branch, they naturally also know Murphy's. This person has a wild and impulsive personality, has all kinds of obsessive-compulsive disorder and cleanliness, and he is even dissatisfied with his own face. And most importantly, he always thinks that the world is dirty and needs to be cleaned, and he never tires of it. To put it bluntly, after the Western Mansion incident and the Zodiac train incident occurred in the Acre Mountains, Spencer Eoswell put this shit on Murphy's head, and his bad character is not enough. Your brain plays a large role. In fact, if you think about it, you can understand that what happened to you in the Acre Mountains in the Midwest of the United States has something to do with him, the director of the Atlantic Institute. It's all across half the world, isn't it, dear? After knowing his character, Chunyuan was thinking at the time, since you want to clean the whole world, but you can't beat the 5 gangsters over here, why not give you time and space to clean it slowly in another world? That's right, Chunyuan just wanted to win him over. Because now Murphy's D. Duval is in a state of losing his family, and he is full of hatred for Umbrella Corporation. With this foundation, Chunyuan thought he still had a chance. Besides, Chunyuan has seen the Ne-alpha parasite before. The body of this thing is as fragile as a jellyfish, and Ne-beta is not much better if you think about it. It would be bad if Murphy slapped him badly if he disagreed with a word, so it's better to settle it peacefully. When thinking of this matter, Chunyuan selectively forgot the corpses of more than 100 mercenaries around the villa. Want to go to another world and shoot yourself? Ha 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 ha. Do you want me to help you? Murphy sneered, but then he saw Chunyuan stand up with a bad face, and quickly added, if you dare, if you do it, you won't get anything. However, Chunyuan just stood up and moved aside, and then, a light blue light curtain appeared beside him. After a few seconds, the light curtain disappeared, and a ferocious hunter alpha appeared here. Murphy's was stunned, stood up abruptly, and looked at the hunter in disbelief. You? How is this possible? Is it a holographic projection? Yes. This is fake. But before he finished speaking, Chunyuan's hunter alpha had already walked to a pair of medieval knight's armor on the side bracket, and grabbed it with a pair of sharp claws. Thanks to Malagus for the reward of 100 starting coins. Today is the 6th update, but the subscription is still not strong. Please support the original version, don't give me too bleak data, please. All Heavens Unlimited Base. Author, Jingde Ren. Chapter 158. 157 Girlfriend. After a few clicks, this pair of metal armor was turned into a pile of scrap metal by the sharp claws of Hunter Alpha. Murphy's face changed again, and his already unnaturally white face was now as white as a piece of paper. Could this be teleportation? Chunyuan walked over and sat down again, looked at Murphy's and said, "Can we talk now?" Murphy's expression became serious, and he said slowly, "Then what can I get?" "I got a chance to establish a new order." Chunyuan said. "New order? Where?" Murphy's asked. "Another world." Chunyuan still said so. Murphy snorted coldly, leaned on the back of the sofa, and said in his unique feminine voice, "Sir, I am talking to you with great patience, which is also my etiquette as an upper-class person, but please don't think my patience is unlimited." Chunyuan didn't talk nonsense, walked over and put a satellite phone on his desk and said, "Another world, I will go there tomorrow night, and I will bring you with me when the time comes. Besides, if you can't get rid of the dead body here, if it falls, how about I clean it up for you? Don't bother your master, I have my own way to deal with it." Murphy said with a gloomy face. "Hee, you're welcome." Chunyuan said to himself, and when he came to the corpses of the two hunters, he muttered to collect in his heart, only to see the blue light sweeping across, and the corpses of the hunters disappeared quickly, no trace. Then he used the same method to clean up the hunter that he had just produced and sent over. Although this hunter was alive, it was a product of the infinite base, so it could naturally be recycled directly. Then there were the corpses of more than 100 mercenaries. In less than half an hour, these corpses, including their clothes and weapons, were all recycled by the infinite base and became resources. Murphy's witnessed the miracle again. He just stared dumbfounded at Chinhuyan's operation, and muttered in his mouth, "What a beautiful light, everything returns to nothing, pure, flawless, clean. If the world can illuminated by this ray of light, what a splendid brilliance it must be." Seeing Chinhuyan turn around to leave, with serious eyes, he finally made up his mind. He said, "Wait a minute. I'll go with you. The data and samples of the Ne beta parasite are indeed with me, but I want to see that world. Then I will give it to you. If you lie to me, I will destroy things immediately. You will get nothing but my life. It's a deal." Chinhuyan smiled. Now Murphy's has nowhere to go. All the more than 100 mercenaries he hired have been killed, and the mercenary organization will not let him go. Moreover, the umbrella company has also removed him. With Spencer's character, he may turn his face against others and silence him at any time. Since Chinhuyan has already demonstrated this miraculous power, it doesn't matter if he tries it. Anyway, he only had this one life left, and the samples and data of the Ne beta parasite in his hand. It was already the next morning when I returned to the farm in Texas, which is located in the north of Lubbock, surrounded by a wilderness, very remote. Looper and Hank also said that the time was just right, and they also wanted to see Chinhuyan's world, so Four Eyes naturally wanted to go. So the group did not separate, and went back to the farm to rest. When Murphy saw this dilapidated farm, he was a little disapproving at first, but when Chinhuyan brought him into the underground primary T-virus research institute, his expression eased a lot. Seeing his appearance, Cian added a sentence beside him, "This place was just flat yesterday. Fix this institute in one day?" Murphy's was a little surprised. "To be exact, it's 18 hours. Chinhuyan said. "And you?" Chinhuyan shook his head, "You don't have to think too much, this ability is also limited. But I am slowly making this restriction more relaxed. Well, you just wait here, I will go to buy some things to another world." "Another world needs something?" Murphy's was a little surprised. "I have a small army over there, and I control a piece of land, but it's too remote, and I need to bring some supplies there." Chinhuyan gave a general explanation of his situation in the world of Command and Conquer. "So you need to buy food and meat? What else?" Murphy suddenly became interested in this. Chinhuyan simply handed him the shopping list Wang Jinsong gave him. Murphy's took it over and took a look. It was full of soybeans, sweet potatoes, corn, beef, and eggs. It also includes some durable clothes, induction cooker, gas stove, and other daily necessities. He threw the list indifferently, and said, "I have channels to buy these things, as long as I have money." "I do have the money, but, how did you have the channels to buy these agricultural products? You have a completely different painting style." Chinhuyan looked him up and down. Murphy smiled disdainfully, "I have a best friend, her father is a big rancher, and she and I often go shopping at South Coast Plaza in Los Angeles. And, she happens to be in Texas." Chinhuyan's eyes lit up, "In Texas? That's really easy. Contact her as soon as possible." Murphy's was straightforward, took out his mobile phone and made a call. He exchanged pleasantries for a while, then explained what he wanted, and said that he would arrange for a car to be delivered right away, and then the two of them started chatting about cosmetics, fur, beauty care, healthcare, and other topics, and blah blah talked halfway. "The hour is not over yet." Chinhuyan looked at each other helplessly, silently stayed away from this man and woman, and then went into the underground research institute to visit this new building by coincidence. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Chen Yuyan also built a protector-type guard robot factory in camouflage mode next to the warehouse, spending 800 points. This point is not enough in an instant, although he can carry out the next physical strengthening now, but looking at his remaining point balance, he still gave up this idea. Counting the 80 points deducted from making Hunter Alpha, now he only has 15,387 points left. You still need to leave enough points to summon 4 eyes and they go over, and you need to buy necessities from here, all of which require expenses. So, still poor. At night, Chen Yuyan's time also came. He put his hand on a huge container in front of him, his whole body turned into a white light, and disappeared from the eyes of the 4 eyes. Thanks to Wuxia for the 2 588 book coins and the 571 book coins for the trumpet. Thank you for the 500 starting point coins rewarded by the assimilation fighter. Today is 7 more, which is still good. It's over. Continue tomorrow. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. All Heavens Unlimited Base. Author, Jingde Ren. Chapter 159. 158 Problems with Eating. Back in the world of Command and Conquer, Chen Yuyan has a huge container beside him, which is filled with the supplies he needs now. In addition to meat and some grain, he also bought sweet potatoes, and other easy-to-grow crops, and he also bought chickens to feed, and they can lay eggs when they grow up. In addition, there are some daily necessities such as clothes. He now needs to establish the material exchange between the infinite base and the 3 villages, and then reintegrate the village, which is already a small peasant economy, into the modern social system. These supplies cost not many points, a total of 137 points. As for what happened to those odds, don't ask, it's because someone is too lazy to write them down in a small notebook. In short, Chen Yuyan still has 15,250 points left, which is an integer, so easy to remember. It's just that the stock is running out, so it needs to be planned and used carefully. To use the summoning function again, you need to wait until 7 days later in the Command and Conquer world, because in this world, those tank soldiers have just returned. Now a large number of B.O.Ws have been dispatched to hunt and kill Junkrat gang members. If there is no accident, Junkrat gang has no ability to resist. And Drago is an insurance, he can use his sniper ability to prevent the Junkrat gang from organizing an organized resistance. As for the scattered battles, no one is an opponent of BOW. But compared to these, Chen Yuyan valued Drago's personal ability more. After all, he was the first person Chen Yuyan came into contact with in this world who had a considerable military level. Hiring Drago as a military advisor is to inject some more professional power into his Ruin Legion. As for how long Drago can stay, Chen Yuyan thinks it all depends on the future development speed of the Ruin Army. Then there is the next important technology, U.M.F-013, the Red Queen. However, the research and development cost of this technology is also astonishingly expensive, a full 10 tons of refined tiberium. This is the price of level 3 technology. Chen Yuyan wanted to go crazy when he saw this number. But there is no way, this resource can only be accumulated slowly. During this period, Chen Yuyan went to the world of Resident Evil for 2 days and spent 1,000 points. This time his main purpose is the technology of the soilless cultivation plant factory and the technology of artificial meat. The biological technology in the world of Resident Evil is extremely developed, and these 2 technologies have reached a very mature stage. In fact, Blue Umbrella, who was in charge of civil technology among the 3 previous departments of Umbrella Corporation, has done research on this aspect and already has products for the market. Then the blue umbrella's technology was used by the red umbrella in charge of military application technology to conduct B.O.W experiments. This is the origin of the number 42 and number 43 plants in Resident Evil 1. It is worth mentioning that Umbrella's artificial meat technology is actually developed based on T-virus, which stimulates muscle blasts in animals to grow in vitro and form muscle fibers. But like the first aid spray, this is a benign use of the T-virus. After this process is completed, the T-virus cells will be inactivated. This process is completely controllable. Just like using first aid spray will not turn people into zombies, eating this artificial meat will not be infected with T-virus. However, this kind of artificial meat technology is not very popular in the world of Resident Evil. After all, Umbrella Corporation has just begun to die, and biochemical terror has not really begun to spread. The world is still very peaceful and rich in supplies, so naturally they have little interest in artificial meat. After owning the soilless cultivation plant factory and artificial meat, Chanyuyan has the capital to expand production in the world of Command and Conquer to feed more people. You must know that no matter which world you are in, how much power you have ultimately depends on how many people you can feed. But just when Chanyuyan got these two technologies and bought another batch of supplies to return, he got the news of the ghost. I have found the trace of Zhang Zhenbo. Ghost said in a low voice in the communication. Chanyuyan was overjoyed, and quickly asked, "Where is it?" "India. According to the information given by Hank, I am following the trail of Frederick Don, who was wanted by Umbrella before. He is now colluding with the newly established Wilf Pharma pharmaceutical company and is India secretly built an experimental base," Ghost said. "You mean, Zhang Zhenbo is with them?" Chanyuyan asked. "To be exact, Zhang Zhenbo is in the same group as Calvin Martins, whom you told me later. Their whereabouts are very secretive, but I still caught a clue," Ghost said. "What clues?" "A piece of gold. In a cafe in New Delhi, India, a ghost in casual clothes tapped a few times on his notebook. I sent you the photo by email." Chanyuyan also quickly turned on the laptop, and he quickly saw the photo of this piece of gold. To be precise, this is a gold brick, and a coat of arms is engraved on the gold brick. Above is a tree with a crown on top, while 7 8-pointed stars surround the tree. This coat of arms appears very abruptly in the hands of Wilf Pharma, and they seem to have a lot of these gold bricks, which is also their bargaining chip for rapid expansion. I traced along this line, which made me found these two people." The ghost continued talking over there. "This coat of arms, I seem to have seen it somewhere." Chanyuyan looked at the photo and became thoughtful. "Have you seen?" Chanyuyan thought for a while, then suddenly came to his senses. "I remembered. The Lord of the Rings. The coat of arms of Gondor. They came from Gondor. What did you say? Don't pay attention to these, but you need to pay attention to that these two people may have supernatural powers, so be careful," Chanyuyan said in a deep voice. "Supernatural power? Understood. I have asked Bertha and Beltway to join us. The question now is, do you want these two people to live or die?" Ghost said lightly. Chanyuyan thought about it, and it was most appropriate to leave this matter to the ghosts and the others. Because if you do it yourself, the other party can also hear the reminder that you have come to this world, which will scare the snake away. Relatively speaking, with the power of Ghost, Victor, and Bertha and Beltway, it is easy to kill these two experimenters who are at most no more than high-level bronze group. Thinking of this, a sneer appeared on the corner of his mouth. "Of course it's dead." "Understood." Ghost hung up the communication directly. "Thank you for the 2,000 starting point coins rewarded by Yimenkingshan. Thanks to Master Yang Yangzin for the reward of 600 starting coins. Thanks to Bookfriend 202002150123000373 for the reward of 500 starting coins. Thanks to Sephiroth and Laser Yangzing for the reward of 100 starting coins. All Heavens Unlimited Base. Author, Jingde Ren. Chapter 160. 159 Killing, Part 1. While Chen was struggling to save resources for infrastructure construction, a massacre was unfolding not far away. Boom. Boom. Da-da-da. A burst of chaotic gunfire rang out among the ruins of the battlefield on the south side of the ruined city. Two members of the Junkrat gang, covered in blood, were fleeing in a hurry. They looked terrified, and fled desperately regardless of the bleeding wounds on their bodies. Although they are still wearing the clothes with barbs that were pieced together from waste materials, and the face and body are also painted with hideous paint, but now they are not as tough as before. They are just two frightened mice. A huge erect lizard is chasing after them, Predator Alpha. Its thick legs were still lizard-like bow legs, but it ran no slower than a human on the rubble-filled ruins, and its sharp claws were stained with blood. 3 fragmented corpses fell not far away, which was the result of their attempt to resist. And this hunter Alpha was right in front of them, tearing those 3 sentient beings to pieces. It's coming. Shoot. Shoot. A member of the gang turned around and saw that the hunter was getting closer. He shouted, turned around and raised the homemade shotgun in his hand, and pulled the trigger. Boom. 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 Projectiles mixed with tiberium crystals scattered from the muzzle of the gun, all hitting the hunter. However, its dense scales and tough skin removed most of the kinetic energy of the bullet. Although its body was still dripping with blood, it was not fatally injured. The hunter kept advancing, and the Junkrat gang fired wildly, but they couldn't stop it at all. Frightened, he shouted, "Mole! Help! Kill it!" But there was no response, and the gang felt a sudden chill. He looked back, but only saw the back of the man named Mole. He was stunned for a moment. At the same time, a shadow enveloped him from behind. With a puff, sharp claws pierced his chest. The severe pain and blood loss made his consciousness gradually blurred. At the last moment of his life, he saw the mole that left him and ran away, and suddenly several huge dogs rushed from the garbage dumps on both sides. One of the dogs had obviously mutated, its entire head was extremely bloated, and it opened its mouth that had mutated into 4 petals, biting his arm in one fell swoop. Seeing this scene, he grinned, "Ha ha ha. Look, the idiot mole is about to be eaten." Before the words fell, puff. The hunter split his claws, and immediately tore his body in half. It's raining blood. Among the ruins on the other side, the sound of gunfire was extremely dense. All I saw were more than a dozen Junkrat gang members gathered together, desperately shooting to resist the rushing monsters. In front of them, more than a dozen hell dogs were rushing forward desperately, and many hell dogs had already mutated. They either grow thick cuticles on their backs, or grow tentacles on their bodies, or their claws become extremely thick, but what remains unchanged is their ferocious nature. Da-da-da-da. Da-da-da-da. Under the dense bullets, Cerberus dogs were constantly knocked down to the ground, but they quickly got up again and continued to charge forward desperately. There are even some hellhounds with broken legs crawling slowly on the ground, those eyes full of chaos staring at the living creatures in front of them. Soon, some hellhounds began to grow new claws. They stood up again, and rushed towards the Junkrat gang in front of them. Quick! Shoot! Shoot! Kill them! Junkrat's gang yelled and opened fire crazily. Upstairs! Upstairs! Suddenly, a gang member pointed to the ruins of a more than half-collapsed building in front of them and screamed loudly. I only saw more than a dozen monsters crawling on all fours, with their brains exposed, crawling over the wall as if walking on flat ground. They opened their mouths and let out terrifying screams, and their meter-long tongues waved and twisted in front of them like poisonous snakes. Da-da-da-da. Da-da-da-da. Immediately there was a rain of bullets. But those lickers crawled very fast, and they even knew how to dodge, crawling towards the side along the wall in an S-shaped route. Quick! Blow up the building! Someone shouted. Several gang members took out the bombs one after another, put them on the rubber bands, spun them around a few times, and flew out of their hands. Homemade bombs flew towards the ruins one by one, boom! Boom! Set off a series of explosions. But the ruins of the building are still strong, and there are still liquors rushing out of the gunpowder smoke. A person took out an RPG-7 rocket launcher and shouted loudly, "I'm here." But before he could pull the trigger, his head suddenly exploded. Under the action of the impact, the whole body slammed into the wall behind with a bang, and at the same time, the bazooka was fired. Phew! The rocket flew out crookedly, and exploded on a ruin in the distance with a bang. The flames of the explosion illuminated the dark shadows, only to see that the building was crawling with liquors. Countless hisses came from the darkness, bringing even more despair. When the flames in the distance were extinguished, a large number of hellhounds and liquors had completely submerged the place. Click! Drago pulled the bolt, ejecting a shell. He picked up the cartridge case and put it in his pocket, and stood up from the ground. He looked at the ruins of the battlefield in the south of the city that had been shrouded in darkness, and felt a tinge of fear in his heart. Turning his head, the huge bodies of 2 hunter alphas were standing quietly behind him. There are 4 or 5 corpses under the hunters' feet. These corpses are also wearing Junkrat-style junksuits, but the muscles on their bodies are obviously stronger and more explosive than those of other gang members. They all held daggers polished with tiberium crystals in their hands, and on one of the corpses, dark green crystals could still be seen growing from the body. Mutants. It turns out that the Junkrat gang are mutants, no wonder they are so difficult. Drago waved his hand to signal the 2 hunters protecting him to go away, and he came to the empty window of the building alone. Forward. It's been 7 days, his mood has changed from eager to try at the beginning, to a little curious, to full of surprise. Until now, nothing but fear is still in his heart. The darkness at night was as thick as sticky asphalt. Although it was not so dark, it was enough to make people daunting. Drago wasn't afraid of the dark, but he was filled with fear now. It was indeed not the darkness that he was afraid of, but the constant rustling voices in the darkness. He raised his unique tactical eyepiece-like swimming goggles, pressed the button to turn on the night vision mode, and a green light glowed on the straight lens. Then, he saw the source of his fear. In the night, the hunters, lickers, and hellhounds advanced silently, one after another. They didn't make any sound except for the slight sound of footsteps on the ground. Like a machine, it just keeps going, going. There are also a large number of ant-like robots crawling around, some in the same direction as those monsters, and some have already begun to return. There are basically 1 or 2 corpses on the cargo bucket behind the returning ant robot. Drago looked back to the direction he came from. It was just a whim when he went to find the man named Chunyuyan to find a job, but now looking in the direction of Chunyuyan's base, he only felt that there was an extremely terrifying giant beast. Thanks to Jijij91 for the reward of 500 starting coins.